Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is essentially a user's manual for your brain. It turns out our nervous system has a built-in operating system for focus, rest, and motivation. We all show up in the world with this incredible biological machinery, but most of us were literally never taught how to drive it. So let's see if we can figure out how to control our internal chemistry together to really optimize how we learn, how we rest, and how we connect with the people around us. Now, you might be wondering, what if the secret to learning faster was doing absolutely nothing for just 10 seconds? We usually assume constant, relentless grinding is the only path to better learning, right? But neuroscience tells a totally different story. It turns out, if you just stop and stare blankly into space for about 10 seconds during an intense task, a little micro rest, your brain undergoes a replay of the information you're trying to learn at 20 times the normal speed. Your hippocampus and neocortex are literally rapidly rewiring themselves in those tiny pauses. It's not some internet hack, it's a built-in feature of your nervous system. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're exploring 5 core functional systems. First, the mechanics of learning. Second, sleep and deep rest. Third, the truth about dopamine. Fourth, hacking habits with symbols. And finally, the chemistry of relationships. Section 1. The mechanics of learning and how your brain actually rewires itself. So, neuroplasticity, which is just the brain's ability to change, is a strict 2-stage process. Think of it like using a highlighter pen. Step 1 requires intense focus and alertness. This state is driven by adrenaline, which kind of makes you feel agitated, and a neurochemical called acetylcholine, which acts exactly like that highlighter pen in your brain. It marks the specific neural connections you're using. But here's the catch. That highlighter pen doesn't actually save the document. Step 2, deep rest, is when the actual rewiring and retention happen. You highlight during focus, but you hit the save button during rest. So the crucial point here is the number 90. Our brains operate on what's called an ultradian rhythm, meaning we can really only handle intense, highly focused learning in bouts of about 90 minutes. After a 90-minute cycle of highlighting all those neural pathways, your brain fundamentally requires a true break to process and solidify that information before you can go back to intense work. Moving right along to Section 2, sleep and deep rest, the nervous system's built-in save button. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can actually access these critical rewiring mechanisms while we're wide awake. NSDR, or non-sleep deep rest, encompasses practices like yoga nidra or taking shallow naps. By deliberately practicing NSDR, you're actively shifting your brain from a state of thinking and doing to a state of being and feeling. You're turning off the predictive, anxious parts of your prefrontal cortex and allowing the brain to consolidate learning without having to be in a full nighttime sleep cycle. It's an absolute game changer. Notice the stark contrast here between focus and rest. Focus relies on adrenaline and agitation. Rest requires zero adrenaline. This distinction is incredibly vital when we look at actual sleep, particularly REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. REM sleep essentially acts as a built-in trauma therapy for us. During REM, your brain replays highly emotional events, but, and here is the really incredible part, it completely shuts off the release of adrenaline. You experience the emotional memory minus the neurochemical that makes your body feel terrible. It literally strips the trauma from the memory, which explains why a good night's sleep makes yesterday's massive crisis feel surprisingly manageable today. Okay, Section 3, the truth about dopamine. We are redefining the molecule of motivation. We need a massive paradigm shift here. Dopamine is not just about feeling good. It's the molecule of motivation. It is fundamentally about the desire to pursue things outside of your immediate experience. It's the drive to get the degree, find the partner, or, secure the food. It's the neural energy that propels you forward into action, not just the reward you feel when you're finally sitting on the couch. Now, what's really interesting about this is how anticipation works, leading to what's called dopamine reward prediction error. Your dopamine levels are heavily driven by anticipation. Say you tell a kid you're taking them for ice cream, their dopamine immediately spikes. But if you get to the shop and it's closed, their dopamine doesn't just go back to normal, it crashes way below baseline. It feels like a punishment, and anyone who's promised a kid ice cream knows exactly how bad that crash looks. On the flip side, if a massive reward is a total surprise, the dopamine surge is huge. Basically, if you constantly hype things up and they fall flat, you're actively punishing your own dopamine system. So,
To use this chemistry to your advantage, you want to build what we might call adaptive addictions, healthy habits. The secret is assessing how you feel after the activity. If you absolutely dread going to the gym beforehand, but you feel like a superhero afterward, you're training your synapses to reinforce that behavior. The post-activity dopamine is higher than the anticipation, meaning there's no crash. By focusing on the retrospective pleasure of a difficult task, you naturally sustain your motivation day after day.
Section 4. Hacking habits with symbols. Programming your nervous system daily. The ultimate daily symbol? Morning sunlight. As that bright morning light hits your eye, it literally turns the gears of your biological clock, serving as the master anchor for your entire biology and setting off a whole cascade of timing mechanisms. When that early sunlight hits your retina, the cascading benefits are just astounding. It perfectly sets your melatonin rhythms. You can actually fall asleep 16 to 20 hours later. It balances healthy cortisol to give you morning energy, enhances your immune system, and directly boosts your dopamine and overall mood. Aligning your internal 24-hour clock with the rise and fall of the sun is, for sure, the most foundational physical symbol you can provide your nervous system every single day. Let's move to our final section and see how this all builds. Section 5. The chemistry of relationships. Balancing the molecules of connection. There's a fascinating biochemical tug-of-war happening in our relationships. Remember, dopamine is about pursuing what's outside your immediate experience. It thrives on novelty, excitement, and pursuit. It's that thrilling, sometimes manic energy of early romance. But as a relationship matures, it shifts balance to rely on serotonin and oxytocin. These are the molecules of safety, deep connection, and appreciating what you already have right in front of you. A healthy long-term bond requires the safety of serotonin and oxytocin, but, and this is key, to keep a relationship vibrant over decades, couples have to intelligently reintroduce novelty and unpredictability to spike that dopamine system once again. So we've covered the hidden operating system of your brain today, from 90-minute learning bouts and deep rest rewiring to the master symbol of morning sunlight, right down to the chemistry of human connection. But it all leaves us with one incredibly powerful question. Are you controlling your dopamine? Or is your dopamine controlling you? Because once you understand this biological machinery, you have the agency to step out of reactivity. You can deliberately disengage to rest, strategically delay rewards to build motivation, and consciously balance novelty with connection. Take these frameworks and start actively writing your own neurochemical code today.